Agent Morris with the NSA.
There is something real here.
Did you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had people with the first-hand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General. Biologics came to some of these recoveries.
Those could represent exquisite new adversary technology.
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
The government is covering up some level of its knowledge and understanding about what some of those things are.
The Sol Foundation, which just announced a new initiative for UFO research and policy.
It's nuts, man. I mean, we're just small-town buds who saw a UFO in the woods. I mean, now we're hanging out with the government.
Wow. What floor were you guys on?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Anomaly Now, straight out of Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Smiles Lewis. This is the live weekly news media roundup for the 501c3 Anomaly Archives nonprofit Scientific Anomaly Institute. Thank you for joining us. It is March 19th, 2025 on this Wednesday evening, and whether you're listening, watching live, or watching or listening to the rebroadcast or the audio-only podcast, thank you, and please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Let's dive right in. We have coming up very soon our monthly Anomaly Archives Patreon Anomaly Academy lecture series that's available to Patreon members of a certain tier or higher. You can go to patreon.com/Anomaly Archives and see the different tiers available there. Every amount helps, and if you can't donate, that's fine. You can also join for free and just get email updates, or you can go to our website, anomalyarchives.org, and find information about us there and our 7,000 plus collection that we are. Our goal and mission is to preserve anomalous materials. We have over 7,000 titles, thousands of periodicals, and we are trying to get back into a physical location and need your donations. Coming up next week, next Wednesday, March 26th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be featuring a wonderful lecture by our good friend Micah Hanks, Sasquatch, Relict, Hominoids in History and Official Files. And you can find out, again, more about that over at patreon.com. And we'll be posting something soon for the website, anomalyarchives.org. All right. So, we are moving into very strange times. Obviously, things just get weirder and weirder in the world between things like escalating hyperreality, artificial intelligence, and harder and harder to discern realities. It just seems like there's so much going on. There's a lot of new technologies that you've already probably encountered and you may not even be aware of. And forgive me if I'm preaching to the choir and you already know about this, but thanks to volunteers like our good friend Victor and others, I've been made aware of so many different new technologies that I've actually stumbled across but didn't even realize what I was watching at the time. One of those are YouTube's AI synthetic speech translation function called AutoDub, among other phrases for it, as well as Google's Notebook LM, which launched, I guess, sometime middle of last year, but which I did not realize was already having far-flung implications. So an example of this, hopefully the audio will play, but this is a auto-dubbed piece of footage from Collective TV, or KOLLEKTIV. I believe this is non-English originally. I'm not sure if it's German or some other language, but this new auto-dub function will automatically translate materials. And I've seen this on a couple of different English-speaking podcasts where they now have German or Spanish language versions of their podcast, and it's in their voice. This AI synthetic speech translation emulates, not always very well, but well enough to enable other people in different languages to hear and understand what they are seeing and hearing. And in this example, this is a collection of old footage posted at this channel, and I'll give you a little sample here.
A resourceful official told him that he could lift the flight ban for 10 minutes. That's enough, said the woman, stood up and went home without the UFO. And there have always been people who have supposedly had a lot to do with flying saucers in their lives.
Dr. Victor, is there evidence for the existence of extraterrestrial flying saucers?
I always wanted to believe in flying saucers. It would have been a real sensation to meet beings from an alien planet. But as a scientist, I have to be simple, but they also speak different dialects. There is still no world language.
All right. Well, that just gives you a little sample. Clearly, that's kind of a stilted example, but there you go. But this is very useful. This will make more accessible a lot of material that you or I, English only speakers, I'm thinking most of our audience. Congratulations if you speak any other language besides your native language. Good job. But yeah, it's a really weird time. And this also reminds me of something that was posted by our good friend Greg Bishop over at his Radio Misterioso Facebook group, where he posted this video. 2 AIs discuss the physics of the Akashic records, the hyperspace of consciousness. And Greg wrote, 2 AI voices discuss, and that's the name of the podcast, 2 AI voices discuss, I guess. Massimo Teodorani's groundbreaking book, The Hyperspace of Consciousness. And Greg says, sort of disturbing that I don't think I could have guessed these were generated and spoken by AI. And in this example, we'll see if we can play a little bit here. Hopefully the audio. Oh, no, we just lost. Hold on. I'm going to reshare, remove to stage, and I hope this will play a little bit. And I am not hearing any audio. Okay, let's try. Okay, one more try here. Stop screen share. Present. Share screen. Here we go. This, I think, will work. Again, this is 2 AIs, 2 AI voices. I'm not actually 100% sure about this one, but I believe
by Massimo Teodorani.
Yeah.
This isn't one of those boring physics textbooks. This one tackles the big questions.
The really big one.
The ones that keep us up at night. Like, what is reality really?
Yeah.
How does consciousness even fit into all of this universe? And could there be a whole other realm of existence beyond what science can explain right now?
Right.
It's going to be a wild ride. So hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our deep dives in the
All right. So yeah, even the AIs are telling you to like and subscribe. But this all reminds me. So I posted to Greg's thing. Wow, this really does seem to be like an example of this Google Notebook LM, large language model, AI generated stuff, and it's pretty disturbing. I mean, we've all been encountering more and more of this. Every app you use, whether it's your email or even I was scanning documents with Adobe Acrobat into PDF format, and it's literally asking me, would you like to ask your PDFs a question? And that's just it. Like, you can now and just you can now ask your text, your scanned texts questions. That you can get synopses. Obviously, this could be very helpful for cramming for tests and so forth in college and whatnot. But I got to say, it's a little worrisome. In this last one, I had found how to make a realistic AI video podcast with Notebook LM. I found it rather interesting that the source material was Robert Anton Wilson on consciousness. Go Wilson. Anyway, all this is just probably, again, preaching to the choir. And I do think there's some amazing things that could be done with this. I think, back to a few episodes, a few weeks back, we showed you a museum exhibit where they had a number of life-size computer-generated 3D renderings of famous ufologists, both living and dead. And they were interactive. You could ask them questions, and obviously they'd been fed a lot of those individuals' material and could try to answer questions in the way that those people would answer them. And of course, the pseudonymous Isaac Coy over in England has been doing this, and he's created a couple of Jacques Vallée chatbots and that sort of thing. I do think this is a very interesting development, but yeah, I'm a worrier. All right, well, moving right along. Of course, the big news has been this document dump, 80,000 plus pages, not 80,000 documents, but allegedly there's going to be a total of approximately 80,000 JFK related pages of documents released. They're being released through archives.gov. That's the National Archives website, and that is already online. Just, I guess, yesterday, 3 hours apart, there were two different dumps of 30,000 plus pages of materials. And yeah, you can start wading through that. I'm not holding my breath that this is going to be some kind of big revelation. As I used to joke to ufologist Stan Friedman, don't the Illuminati have paper shredders? Which is to say, conspirators always do their worst deeds off the books. But I do still think that there's a lot that could be possibly made available by this. I think this could be a very important and interesting development in the JFK assassination conspiracy research community. I so far have not heard of any bombshell documents being revealed. What we're mostly hearing are, unsurprisingly, kind of like that recent phase one of the Epstein doc dump, which was just a complete flop and joke. What's being released appears to be more or less what's already been out there, including, I think, these thousands, tens of thousands, 30, 60, 80,000 pages of JFK documents. However, I am hearing that some of them have less redaction than what had been previously available. I've heard it being described that they are scanning and then having internal people review to make sure certain things aren't being released that they don't want released. I would be shocked if there's anything that really lends credence to the, I think, high probability that there was a conspiracy beyond Lee Harvey Oswald. And yeah, there are so many threads in the JFK assassination mythos, and by mythos I do not mean folklore or non-fact, but there's so many threads to be pulled on, and we shall hopefully hear more. But yeah, it is, of course, unsurprisingly, it's getting a lot of mainstream coverage. USA Today: Trump releases classified JFK files on assassination. Here's what they say. This is a decent, deep, I don't know, I wouldn't say deep dive, but they definitely are asking some interesting questions and talking about this. But again, I'm not seeing or hearing any extraordinary claims coming out of this doc dump. And I would say this dovetails with this new task force, this government transparency, revealing alleged secrets related to 9/11, COVID, the Epstein files, the JFK, RFK, MLK assassinations. It's different in that, of course, this is I believe, self-created task force by Rep. Luna and others that I think is basically hitching onto the executive orders and campaign promises of the president, who, of course, has been saying, I guess it was timed originally. The president, the Don, said during his campaign when he brought RFK Jr. onto the ticket that that's when he pledged to continue what he had already done in the previous administration, his previous administration of declassifying these documents. Of course, this was all started in '92 under the Clinton administration, and there are JFK assassination expert researchers out there who know what to look for and are looking for the very important specific documents that would go a long way to proving some greater conspiracy. But over at freedom.press, that's the Freedom of the Press Foundation, from back in February 16th, Lauren Harper wrote, "New declassification task force may be more bark than bite." And this is still kind of my sense of things. Is the declassification task force a stunt? The House of Representatives has created a, quote, task force on the declassification of federal secrets, unquote, but the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform's effort, to be led by Rep. Paulina Luna, leaves much to be desired. And here are a few shortcomings. The task force, whose mission is to, quote, examine the declassification of materials in the public interest, is only authorized for 6 months. That is way too short a period of time. But declassifying records often takes years, especially when multiple agencies are involved. Another bullet point, a letter it sent to the Energy Department suggests the task force is limited to making recommendations about whether the documents it reviews should be declassified. This likely means the agencies could still keep records secret if they choose. It's interesting that they specifically mention the Energy Department. I'm assuming that's the DOE, Department of Energy. I guess it was renamed. That has gotten so much focus due to the UFO issue and the long-running knowledge that these drones, UFOs, whatever they are, these what's-its in the sky, have for decades focused on these facilities. That might imply to you that these are foreign adversaries or our own red teams testing security at these facilities, or some possible non-human intelligence that finds them interesting, of note. Maybe they're sucking the energy off them. Maybe they're just worried that we're going to blow up the planet where they already are, because, of course, I subscribe to the ultra-terrestrial or crypto-terrestrial idea that some UFO phenomena may represent some sort of coexisting intelligence here on the planet with us. Last bullet point at this freedom.press page, it's also not clear if the task force will have enough staffers with the necessary security clearances to review records. House staffers are rarely granted clearance at the highest level, like TS/SCI or top secret sensitive compartmented information clearances, which could make a large review and declassification effort impractical. So I'm curious, like, how this relates and compares to what's going on with the JFK, RFK, MLK declassification efforts that were through executive order. Again, not holding my breath. We'll see. And yes, this article over at freedom.press goes on to say FAA safety reports should be public. The Federal Aviation Administration knew how dangerous Washington, D.C.'s Reagan National Airport was for years prior to January's crash. FAA safety reports reviewed by the New York Times showed multiple near collisions reported at the airport over the years. The reports were not publicly released, making it harder for Congress and the public to improve aviation safety rules. Currently, most public aviation safety data comes from the Aviation Safety Reporting System. The ASRS is a valuable database of voluntarily submitted claims maintained by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, but it has limited practical implications and isn't a substitute for statutorily mandated public reporting. Congress should require the FAA to make its safety reports public. And this was, again, with these mass firings coming through the efforts of that other guy, that billionaire, you know the one, National Archives Under Threat, FPF, helped lead a coalition letter to the President Donald Trump protesting both the unwarranted firing of the National Archives and Records Administration's head official, the Archivist of the United States, and the possibility her replacement may be someone who does not have the necessary professional qualifications to lead the agency. These concerns are exacerbated by reports that Trump has a list of more NARA officials he wants fired over their suspected involvement in his classified documents case. If the National Archives doesn't have qualified leadership, the rest of the government will have an easier time keeping secrets. NARA plays a key role in making sure agencies across the government are appropriately saving their records, and the public needs to know more than ever that the agency has qualified leadership. And there's more that you can read over at freedom.press, where this article by Lauren Harper is titled New Declassification Task Force May Be More Bark Than Bite. And I do tend to agree and worry about that. Something that I thought I would have mentioned on the previous show, this article from Garrett of Patterns Tell Stories, the podcast by the 17ers, the newbie UFO UAP folks, Garrett and his co-host Klaus, do a great job. I've mentioned their podcast many times on this show, and I still highly recommend it. But yes, this article from February 27th by Garrett at his Liberty Bird Substack, titled "The Hidden Nazi Connection to John F. Kennedy's Death," I think is worth your time, as are the two part 1, part 2 podcasts of theirs that you can find through your favorite podcatchers or at their patternstellstories.com website. They've also got a recent, Garrett has also recently done an article at that same Substack called The Trickster Phenomenon, where he gets into Carl Jung's idea of the trickster and how so many people like myself, they don't cite me, but how others in the UFO field have long made connections to the nature of the UFO phenomena and its trickster-like nature, which is specific to both Carl Jung's ideas of the archetypes and the trickster archetype, but also the many different mythos across many different cultures that have trickster archetypes, whether they be Native American or Greek or other classic cultures. But going back to this hidden Nazi connection to John F. Kennedy's death, the Patterns Tell Stories podcast has two audio podcasts where they talk about Garrett's work on this article, and those two podcast episodes are called The Wandering Bishops Parts 1 and 2. But yeah, this is a very good deep dive indeed into the many interesting connections to a Nazi network of intelligence operatives that were, a la the American Project Paperclip, incorporated into our own national security state and used domestically and abroad, and they have amazingly weird connections to the JFK assassination story, as well as to NASA and the rocket science industry. I really would encourage you to check this out. And, this would be a good primer for anybody wanting to dive into those recently declassified JFK documents and see if there's anything really interesting in there. One of the threads that Garrett pulls on in this long article is the Torbit document. Now, I've heard about this for decades. I've never really had the chance to dive into it the way I would like to. But this article really reignites that interest in diving into that and trying to learn more about it. From Garrett's Liberty Bird article, William Torbett, quote unquote, is widely recognized as the pseudonymous author of a strange, sensational document titled Nomenclature of an Assassination Cabal, commonly known as the Torbett Document. The document proposes an elaborate conspiracy theory about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, implicating a range of entities, including Nazi scientists from Operation Paperclip, NASA, the FBI's Defense Industrial Security Command, DISCO, and figures like Clay Shaw and Lee Harvey Oswald, all allegedly orchestrated by a Swiss corporation called Permindex. The text claims to expose a shadowy network involving organized crime, government agencies, and international players. According to the Torbett document, the origin of the Defense Industrial Security Command, DISCO, traces its roots to J. Edgar Hoover's creation of a police force for the Tennessee Valley Authority in the 1930s under David Lilienthal's direction. This force expanded to cover the Atomic Energy Commission, Department of Energy, linking it to Army intelligence, and later became tied to a broader conspiracy involving the Kennedy assassination. The Torbett document also explains that a Swiss corporation called Permindex orchestrated 5 groups to execute the assassination, including 1, the Solidarists, led by Ferenc Nagy and John de Menil; 2, a segment of the American Council of Christian Churches, led by H.L. Hunt; 3, the Free Cuba Committee, led by Carlos Prio Socaras; 4, a gambling syndicate tied to the Mafia's Joe Bonanno; and 5, NASA's Security Division, led by Werner von Braun, with DISC headquartered in Alabama and Ohio. Anyway, this is a very long and in-depth article with, again, many side roads and threads to pull on. I highly recommend it, and the audio podcasts that expound upon it, all of which you can find over at patternstellstories.com or at libertybird.substack.com. And there goes the audio again. All right. Well, next up, let's see. Yeah, sticking with paranoia. It pays, but the hours suck. Paranoia pays. So I came across a couple of weeks ago, or no, just a week ago maybe, this article, or actually, well, I came across the videos. There were videos circulating, apparently, of these massive, just huge, hundreds of thousands of people in Belgrade protesting government corruption, and specifically following the deaths of many people when a building, a portion of a building collapsed and killed a bunch of people. And the government seemed to be dragging its feet on revelations about who was responsible for the construction. And then this is the first article I saw about this, and this is from EuropeanWesternBalkans.com. Not sure of them as a news source, and so I've been waiting for more mainstream news articles to appear, and that has finally happened. But this one from March 15th, one of the largest protests ever held in Serbia, students accuse the authorities of using illegal device. So the claim here is that in the midst of the 15 seconds of silence that had been happening at these protests, and this one being massive, bigger than all the previous protests, that during that 15 seconds of silence, suddenly something happened and the crowds split. And you can't really hear anything, but you might be able to see the video here. No, don't do that. No, sorry. Wanted to, yeah, here we go. So yes, you see the people in the street suddenly moving out of the way in a way that implies that they felt threatened, and everybody moved out of the streets, and then slowly they come back in. Now, when I saw this footage, I'm like, this could be anything. You have no way of knowing, and what the nature of this strange human mass behavior could be. But so here is some of the article. Belgrade on Saturday, 15 March, Serbia saw what some are assessing to be the largest protest in its history, with unprecedented numbers of people gathering in the city center from several directions. The citizens gathered to support the protesting students who demand accountability for last year's Novi Sad tragedy. Around 1900 hours, an unknown device was abruptly activated, dispersing peaceful protesters in one of the streets. The students accused the authorities of activating a sonic cannon, a long-range acoustic device which experts claim is illegal. Quote, just to be clear, the regime turned on a sonic cannon, a weapon banned in a huge number of countries that can cause permanent damage and trauma, during 15 minutes of silence for the 15 dead. There you go, posted the profile of the students of the Faculty of Organizational Sciences. The 15 minutes of silence are regularly held at every protest for the 15 victims that occurred back on November 1st, 2024. Now, this, I don't know how they're going to ever prove this. And of course, the authorities are denying it. And, you know, maybe there's some other simple explanation. But sure enough, as of today, Google News has links to a number of articles about this. 2 days ago, the NBC News outlets report sonic weapons not used to attack thousands of protesters, Serbia says. DW English reports Serbia protests what are sonic weapons. BBC.com, Serbia government denies using sonic cannon at protests. That's from yesterday. CNN calls in Serbia for independent investigation into claims of a sonic weapon. So, you know, this is something that we've seen proliferate post 9/11. And this gets into the areas of psychotronic mind control technology and quote unquote non-lethal weaponry that anybody who's paid attention to the UFO phenomena for a long time has noticed overlap with some of the things described by the occupants and the effects on witnesses of craft and objects wielded by the alleged occupants of said craft or UFOs, UAP. And it also has overlap with the other thing that we've been hearing a lot about, and that's Havana syndrome, and previous to that, strange mystery hum phenomenon. There are a wide array of mysterious acoustic effects and the potential technological weaponization of these phenomena for militarized use and for crowd control. And that's why I bring this up. It's hard to say whether this is anything more than just a like maybe there was something else going on there. To me, again, I'm surprised I'm not seeing calls that people are skeptics saying, oh, somebody heard firecrackers or something. I didn't play the audio on that video, but there was no real audio. Some of the witnesses describe hearing a whooshing, but they basically describe being assaulted in their ears, and a common reaction to this is feeling nauseous and feeling under attack and a panic attack. But let's hope that none of us experiences that. Meanwhile, CBS is going to get a little bit of call out tonight for this and another article. March 19th reports over at cbsnews.com, the Colorado psychedelic mushroom experiment has arrived. And this is a nice video and article expose about a group of mother, daughter, and grandmother, or sisters, mother and grandmother. So four ladies participating in a psychedelic sitting with mushroom tea. And it's a very positive drug story. which I'm glad to see. I do think psychedelics have an important role to play in psychotherapy and the healing that needs to happen in our world, in our society, and in ourselves. And I'm just so glad to see this, as they describe, CBS Morning's psychedelic renaissance. Now, that said, I would say there is a very dark side, as there is to most things, to the world of psychedelics, but most of that has to do with the powers that be trying to co-opt it. I don't have any links for this today, but I believe it was today or yesterday that there was a state of Texas press conference where they are trying to ban THC, and we're using all the kind of old school reefer madness, shock and horror tactics that are just lies and misinformation that have assailed drug use for so long. But moving right along, let's shift over to UFOs and conferences and events happening. So if you can't make it to the Contact in the Desert, you can pay for the live stream. That is, if you have a buttload of money. I'm a little disappointed in how expensive this is. I've never made it to the Contact in the Desert in person, and I've never been able to afford to watch their live stream, but maybe you can. Coming up May 30th through June 2nd of this year, Contact in the Desert 2025. For the low price of $400, you get the ultimate replay package. Or for another $100, you get the replays plus live access. Yeah, I don't know about you, but that turns me off right away. I'm sure it's worth it. Ha ha ha. Oh, wait, Friday only. They have lower prices for certain days only. I mean, they do host a large number of speakers, so maybe. Meanwhile, sadly, there has been a cancellation on a conference, the Alien Explorations Conference in New Mexico. This was scheduled for April 4th through 6th, and it was Norio Hayakawa on Facebook that alerted me to this. Dear friends and supporters, we regret to announce that the Alien Explorations Conference, originally scheduled for April 4th through 6th, has been canceled. Due to an unexpected number of ticket cancellations and refund requests, we are unable to proceed with the event as planned. We understand that the current economic uncertainty has impacted many, and we deeply appreciate the enthusiasm and support we've received from the community. While this decision was not made lightly, we believe it is the best course of action at this time. Now, the way I saw this phrased when it first appeared on Facebook mentioned lots of cancellations. So I believe this was a sold-out event, that they'd sold all their tickets for physical attendance. But the announcement that I saw, and maybe this may have been Norio Hayakawa, how you say, editorializing, but he, besides saying economic uncertainty and cancellations, I think he or somebody else I saw had mentioned concerns about air travel. I think you can put two and two together, read between the lines. All right, quickly moving right along, more coverage of South by Southwest, and apparently it was a big alien fest. I did not realize to what extent there were a lot of media, movies, and TV shows premiering that had to do with alien concepts. Over at TexasMonthly.com, you are not alone if South by Southwest convinced you aliens are real. Questions about the existence of extraterrestrial non-human intelligence are getting a lot of play at this year's event. And what this article mainly focuses on is a little bit on this Age of Disclosure documentary, as well as the other things that premiered. Hulu's new Alien Earth, the first television series created by Austinite Noah Hawley. And I had heard about this, but I didn't realize there was an Austin connection. That's great. Of course, a big aliens fan like myself have long wanted to see these terrible critters come to Earth and see how that affects the storyline. Flashback to rumors of William Gibson writing the script for one of the Aliens movies. But yeah, but there was also, let's see, the 2025 film program is littered with aliens, says this article. In world premiere narrative features, quote, these are different titles, Ash, The Astronaut, and The Infinite Husk, as well as in documentaries like The Age of Disclosure and Starman, not to be confused with the John Carpenter film. NASA also has a presence at the conference, having brought 4 scientists to Austin for a panel on the science and art of imaging extraterrestrial samples, though these are rocks, not intelligent beings. Transformed the Austin Central Library into NASA House and demonstrated how its visual equipment peers deep into space where presumably aliens would live. Parenthetically, it says, a planned festival appearance from X-Files star David Duchovny appears to have fallen through, alas. Oh, that's too bad. So it talks a bit about the Age of Disclosure. Nothing really new here. It does say that 34 individuals who spoke to Farah for the documentary aren't cranks and weirdos. They include Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Well, some would disagree. Active U.S. Senators Kirsten Gillibrand, Mike Rounds, yada, yada, yada. A lot of whom came, and you can find, if you look online for South by Southwest photos, searches for Age of Disclosure, you'll see them all doing the red carpet photographs and that sort of thing. A lot of them came for the premiere. That's really cool. And but the article ends by saying, let's see, the festival has always been an exploration of the future, but not necessarily because the ideas discussed in Austin shape society for years or decades to come, as the event's boosters often claim. Well, I'd say Austin has, in a lot of ways, been a premonition of things to come. The article continues, in the short term, South by Southwest reflects the aspirations and anxieties of the individuals pitching panels, submitting films, and showcasing music, as well as the organizers who program the event. Skipping to the last paragraph, aliens are here at South by Southwest 2025 because some filmmakers are exploring their worries about life on this troubled planet and what they see as a disinformation campaign to hide what a growing number of us believe is one of the most significant discoveries in the history of our species. Those troubling extraterrestrials, whether fictional or perhaps factual, represent the future too. It's a shorter term future, one in which the unimaginable feels credible and in which ambient anxieties inspire the hope that something else is out there, or the fear that that might not be a good thing. Moving right along. So this article is from February of this year over at enigmalabs.io. Enigma Labs being the mysterious organization that has launched an app and is partnering with the government and is trying to collect UFO data and making it easier for you to submit that data through their app. And you can go to enigmalabs.io and check out their database, their maps, and so forth. And they also now have a Discord you can join. But this article, I don't think I covered back last month. Hunting New Jersey's mysterious drones in the field with Enigma's AR Identify lens and radio frequency. They've done their part saying, here's our report on the drone sightings and giving you information to read over and process. I think this is all very interesting and possibly useful, though, to be honest, I don't know that. So their big thing is trying to use AI to massage the big data the sets that they have, and obviously that's where everything's going. I just have my doubts about how well the data is actually being curated. And this is just from a few things I've seen that make me feel like they may be overly relying on automation and AI. But that article will be linked in tonight's show notes. But perhaps a bigger and more interesting return to the subject of the drones. And I know that not everybody interested in anomalies and UFOs has an interest in drones, but if you don't see the connection, you're just not getting it. 60 Minutes has done a new 13-minute or so piece that you can watch over on their YouTube channel. There's also, of course, over at cbsnews.com, how the U.S. is confronting the threat posed by drones swarming sensitive national security sites. And that's all there. And like I was showing you, there is this video over at YouTube that you can watch. But yeah, they interview retired 4-star General Mark Kelly, who I believe is one of the people that was targeted for criticism, perhaps, by Chris Mellon of the To the Stars Academy, and one of the big proponents of government transparency and investigation of UFOs, UAP. And there's some good interviews and footage provided by this Jonathan Boutner of these apparent drones that were sighted over Langley. And both Boutner and Kelly were witnesses to these drone incursions. And I don't have the link for tonight, but I've seen also now that there may have been a report that they may have actually recovered one of the drones at Langley back when the incursions were happening. But this, personally, I find this the 13-minute piece to be pretty good. But they do not talk about UFOs, and it's interesting that they do show some footage that is footage that has come out because of people like Jeremy Corbell promoting it as UFO footage, though it's mostly been debunked as likely some identifiable object, and whose shape, the famous night vision pyramid object, is likely a bokeh effect of the camera lens's mechanical functioning. But you may find this interesting and worth looking at. I certainly did, and it's only 13 minutes long, and there's the transcript and questions there over at the CBS News website. But I do also want to thank, again, the Patterns Tell Stories hosts, Klaus and Garrett, for, in one of their recent, at the beginning of their Trickster podcast episode, they always talk about current news before they dive into the main topic of their show. And in this one, sorry, I haven't changed the tab. This one's over at latintimes.com. This wasn't what they were referencing, but it does mention it. And that is, this is very interesting to me. So former Senator Harry Reid, who is apparently one of the main two guys who got the whole OSAP, ATIP, Pentagon UFO program working and investigating UFOs and quote unquote potential future threats, and that brought out Lou Elizondo eventually. And Harry Reid defended Lou Elizondo in terms of the pushback that he got from the Pentagon once he went public. But yeah, this headline: ex-Senator Harry Reid says Russia behind swarms of UFOs spotted recently. This was from April of 2021, and it's quoting articles, interviews with Harry Reid from The Sun, as well as Mystery Wire. Mystery Wire being the George Knapp's New Mexico-based mainstream news coverage. And this article says, in recent weeks, images of exotic mysterious objects in close proximity to U.S. military installations have dominated headlines and national newscasts. And former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is delighted, but not shocked, by a flurry of UFO-related media attention. The former U.S. Senator claims that Vladimir Putin is behind the swarms of UFOs seen circling American warships. After the authenticity of the leaked footage was proven, Harry Reid pointed fingers squarely at the Russian government, The Sun reported. In an interview with Mystery Wire, delivering exclusive reports on Area 51 and UFOs, Reid said that the recent mysterious night vision video of unidentified flickering lights and other warship-like objects floating above can be credited to the Russian government. Now, I bring this up because, again, and this is something I really do appreciate the hosts of Patterns Tell Stories. I think poor Klaus, he lives in New Jersey and is continuing to witness these nightly drone activities, and their thinking on this, I think, is evolved a little bit. I think has always been pretty spot on, and it does lead into some of my deepest concerns of a parapolitical nature as to what's been going on. And without turning this into a political rant, I do think that it seems more likely than not that as much as 80 to 90% of UFO sightings and these drone sightings are likely prosaic IFOs, misidentifications of normal activities of normal aviation and perhaps normal legal activity of drones, that this could have been and perhaps was a demonstration event for very parapolitical reasons that get into very speculative territory, but that have a lot to do with big budget DoD, Department of Defense, military contracts by drone manufacturers. And it's not that hard to do the research and look into what really wealthy people who are behind the current administration's machinations to see that they are involved in drone research and military contracts for drone warfare technologies. And given the past history of, as revealed in Jacques Vallée's journals and other texts, where he has been it's been suggested to him by people like, I believe, Kit Green and others, that some of the previous incursions into and around nuclear missile facilities by quote unquote mystery helicopters could have been quote unquote Delta Force red team type operations, that there really could be some kind of shenanigans here. All right. I'm probably not making a lot of sense, but for what it's worth, check out another flashback. This one from 8 years ago or 9 years ago. This from, let's see, what is this? Come on. January of 2017 from Scripps News Service and Newsy. And I'm not going to play the audio, but these were micro drone swarms deployed by our own military jets to test them for doing recon and doing a variety of other things. My point being, again, here was something from 2017 before the mystery drone swarms in the Midwest, Colorado, Nevada, and elsewhere, and then of course at these military bases. So that is all to say, both sides, all of us, the United States and others, are active in this. Okay, really quickly, some other interesting news headlines before we close out for the night. This just came across my radar today. Enhanced mind matter interactions following RTMS-induced frontal lobe inhibition. This is an article, a science experiment being reported over at ScienceDirect.com. It has not yet been, I believe, in a peer-reviewed journal, but over at Fundaca Obiel. I'm not even going to try to do the website, but it's the Beale Foundation, who I know have been involved in a lot of psi research. Could we have psi abilities if our brains didn't inhibit them? This is very intriguing. Research tests a novel neurobiological model of how the brain acts as a psi inhibitor and concludes that the frontal lobes of the brain act as a filter to inhibit humans' innate psi abilities. There are several studies. They basically are saying psi is real, but sometimes it doesn't work very well. To address the phenomena, Morris Friedman's team, supported by the Beale Foundation, has developed a novel neurobiological model based upon the concept that the brain may act as a psi inhibitory filter. To test this hypothesis, he and his colleagues used repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, RTMS, to induce reversible brain lesions in the left medial middle frontal region in healthy participants. In an article that was published online ahead of the print in the scientific journal Cortex, called Enhanced Mind-Matter Interactions Following RTMS-Induced Frontal Lobe Inhibition, Friedman and the researchers found a significant side effect following RTMS inhibition of the left medial middle frontal lobe. Healthy participants with reversible RTMS-induced lesions affecting the left medial middle frontal region of the brain showed larger effects on a mind-matter interaction task compared to healthy participants without RTMS-induced lesions. These findings support the concept that the brain serves as a filter to block side effects and may help explain why these effects are so small and hard to replicate in healthy participants. Quote, "This study confirmed our hypothesis," said Friedman, head of the Division of Neurology at Baycrest, adding that, quote, individuals with neurological or reversible RTMS-induced frontal lesions may represent a useful group for detection and replication of this phenomena. Haven't had the chance to dive into that actual paper, but this is intriguing at the very least. Meanwhile, over at uapcheck.com, in search of answers from extraordinary testimonies to dream sellers, the role of collective consciousness, this by Michael Valiant. This looks really interesting. I have not had the time to dive into it. It looks like a very well written and constructed article. Part 1, a surrealist drift between mysticism and UFOs. Let's see, what are some of the other parts here? Anyway, headlines like a confusion between psychological and physical phenomena, between objectivity and subjectivity in the investigation of UAP. Looks like it just really touches on a lot of very interesting stuff that I think might hold promise. I just love this. I don't know if this is a real book, a CE5 handbook, an easy-to-use guide to help you contact extraterrestrial life that has this funny, like, backyard chaise lounge kind of thing, which they showed the News Nation shot of, I don't think that's Jake Barber, one of the other Skywatcher people. Anyway, that looks to be a very interesting article, so you might want to check that out. Meanwhile, I mentioned Norio Hayakawa previously, who turned me on to the cancellation of that UFO conference. And this one from earlier this month, March 12th. Will 2025 be the beginning of the near future, quote unquote, Project Blue Beam deception? Now, Norio Hayakawa has really come a long way from his belief-centered ideas to his more skeptical perspective now. But he, like myself, has been around for so long that he remembers when Serge Monast started talking about, quote unquote, Project Bluebeam back in the day. There's never been any evidence that Project Bluebeam, such as it's called, was real, but it features, the ideas of it feature so prominently in things that we do know have happened, and that is simply the idea that the powers that be, military, government, covert operations, have utilized people's belief in all these phenomena to stage and fake UFO encounters and religious experiences as a way of performing basically psychological warfare, psychological operations, psyops. He's basically just posting this to promote an interview that he did with this person who I'm not familiar with, AI Schnost. And but I got to mention that just because, hey, Norio, he's great. Meanwhile, another interesting article that you might find interesting: Paranormal Studies and Intuition.wordpress.com. This one by our friend Susan Demeter, Ball Lightning, a Rare and Enigmatic Phenomena. Very interesting article about this rare phenomena that I've been near many times, but I've missed witnessing, unfortunately, every time. Again, I mentioned previously Garrett over at his libertybird.substack, The Trickster and the UFO. This is that article that I was referring to that they have also done a podcast episode. It's their current one that's out right now. And lastly, Caught in a Bubble by Michael Swords. Michael Swords is an old school UFO fellow who's been involved with CUFO, Center for UFO Studies, founded by J. Allen Hynek. This article is over at kufos.org, and I found it interesting, referencing people like Mr. Graves, Ryan Graves, at the recent hearings last year, and how some of the things that were described might relate to some famous cases in terms of the idea of energy bubbles around these UFO objects or craft or whatever they are. These whatsits. All right. That's going to be it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. Again, please, if you can, like, subscribe. Our number of subscribers to this YouTube channel is growing. We appreciate it. You can go to our patreon.com/Anomaly Archives page. You can subscribe for free and get news updates. You can also go to anomalyarchives.org and subscribe for free there for updates to that page. We pretty much try to keep the things in sync, but sometimes things appear at one and not the other. But we have next week coming up. There won't be a live show in this normal spot because we'll be hosting Micah Hanks, who will be giving a presentation, Sasquatch, Relict, Hominoids in History and Official Files. You can go to patreon.com/Anomaly Archives, sign up for $10 and get access to that live presentation, as well as several months back of past monthly presentations. We hope that you'll take advantage of that. We will see you soon. Thank you so much. Good night.